Alcatraz, known as the world's most secure prison, was built in 1934 in the cold waters of San Francisco Bay. Its high walls, armed guards, and isolation made escape seem impossible until 1962, when three men dared to defy its walls. Frank Morris, a brilliant criminal, and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, were determined to escape. All three were locked in Alcatraz, notorious for their criminal acts, and none of them wanted to spend life behind bars. Frank Morris started analyzing Alcatraz's weak points. After months of observation, he realized an escape was possible. He shared his plan with the Anglin brothers, who eagerly joined him in his quest for freedom. The three men began collecting tools like spoons and scraps to secretly chip away at their cell walls. They worked in silence, concealing their efforts to avoid detection, knowing that even a tiny mistake could ruin everything. The prisoners secretly dug holes in their cell walls over weeks. The holes led to the ventilation system. With extreme caution, they hid their work with newspapers and blankets, hoping the guards wouldn't notice their progress. To cover up their digging, the men used cardboard and old photos. They carefully concealed the holes, knowing any sign of their efforts would mean failure. The secrecy was paramount to the success of their escape plan. Each night, when the lights went down, the men quietly resumed their digging. Every movement had to be precise, as any noise could attract the guards. With every passing night, their tunnels grew longer, inching them closer to freedom. After months of intense planning and hard work, the men were finally ready to make their move. The tunnels were complete, their tools were gathered, and the escape route was in place. The tension was palpable. Any mistake now could lead to failure. They carefully concealed their. On June 11th, 1962, the men made their move. They crawled through the tunnels and entered the prison's ventilation shafts. From there, they would climb to the roof, but the hardest part was still ahead, getting past the prison guards. The men crawled through the prison's dark, narrow sewers. It was a dangerous journey, but they had no choice. They moved as quietly as possible, knowing that even the slightest sound could alert the guards and ruin their plan. After hours of crawling through the sewers, the men finally reached the roof. They had to make their way across the top of the prison, evading detection by the guards patrolling below. It was their last hurdle before escaping into the night. Using raincoats and other materials, they fashioned makeshift rafts. They ventured into the frigid waters of the bay, knowing they had to survive the cold and currents to make it to freedom. Their fate hung in the balance. When the guards discovered the escape, they sounded the alarms. A massive search began across the bay, with helicopters and boats scouring the waters. But no sign of the escapees was found, and the mystery began to grow. The FBI launched an extensive investigation, but the men were never found. Some believed they had drowned in the cold waters, while others speculated they had survived and escaped, leaving the world to wonder what happened to them. Despite the search, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers were never captured or found dead. The mystery of their escape remains unsolved, and many continue to debate whether they survived or perished in the waters of the bay. The escape from Alcatraz became one of the most famous prison break stories in history. To this day, their fate remains unknown, and the legend of their daring escape continues to capture the imagination of people around the world.